This weekend, Captain Marvel hit theaters, so today we're going to stop and rank all 7 female-led comic book movies from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I started this channel because I was driving everyone around me crazy talking about movies way too much. If you can relate, you're probably in the right place and consider clicking that subscribe button. Also, join us down in the comment section. Share your picks for the best and the worst female-led comic book movies of all time. There's some that are pretty good, and there's some that are really bad. Let's have a nice, lively discussion about all 7 of them. One more thing before we get started. If you're interested in one of these I Talk Movies Too Much shirts, they are available in my merch store, as well as several of the other shirts I wear in my videos. You can find that at the link below in the description. With that said, let's get started. In last place is Supergirl. The original female-led comic book movie remains the absolute worst. And it's a real shame because it was produced by the same people that gave us Superman 1 and Superman 2. Helen Slater's perfectly fine in the role. She looks the part. She can play the naivety for the fish out of water aspects of the story. But unfortunately, the script and the story that she was given do not do her any favors. The basic conflict of the story involves Supergirl accidentally losing the power source for Argo City and then journeying to Earth to get it before everyone in Argo City dies. So what does she do as soon as she arrives on Earth? She enrolls in college and starts to play sports? As bad as that sounds, somehow the execution of the plot is worse than the plot itself. The main villain in the film is a woman obsessed with witchcraft, and by chance, by coincidence, the power source lands right in front of her and provides her the ability to do a bunch of evil magic things. It's a movie so bad that they cast legendary actor Peter O'Toole to be in it, and then they have him just walking around the Phantom Zone saying squirt over and over again. But I will say the score for the movie is actually pretty good. Everything else about it, a fairly incoherent mess. At number 6 is Catwoman. There's actually a lot of potential to make a great movie out of Selena Kyle's Catwoman. As a cat burglar who's not all bad, there's a bunch of interesting things you can do with both the story as well as her character arc. Yeah, that's not what this movie is at all. This is a bad idea executed even worse. It might be based around a Batman villain, but no Batman characters appear in this film. It's new characters, it's a new origin story, and it features Egyptian mythology and a kitty cat giving her powers. Everything interesting about Catwoman is thrown out and replaced with kitty cat resurrection. The plot revolves around an evil lotion company trying to release an evil lotion to the market, and Halle Berry must stop the evil lotion saleswoman. And if you use the evil lotion too long, you gain superpowers. So Sharon Stone, the evil lotion saleswoman, turns into an evil lotion supervillain. And even beyond that, the way the entire story unfolds revolves entirely around coincidence. Halle Berry just happens to show up just as people are robbing a jewelry store. She just happens to be riding around at the fair that falls apart. She just happens to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. The big standout sequence in this movie is this ridiculously over-the-top basketball game between Halle Berry and Benjamin Bratt. This is the type of movie that if you watch it with a group of your most obnoxious friends, you will have a whole lot of fun. Number 5 is Elektra. This movie is probably the most forgettable film on this entire list. It does nothing to really distinguish it from any other assassin movie out there. In fact, it follows the assassin with a good heart story template to a T. It tries to throw in some supernatural elements here and there, but it seems like it's just the wrong mix of assassin movie and supernatural stuff. If you want a Jennifer Garner assassin movie, it's probably a little bit too weird for you. And if you want a weird comic book movie, it doesn't have enough of it to actually satisfy. Also, the movie overall feels like it's over-directed, like they're trying to impress you with the style. During the final fight, there's like sheets flying around to give it an artistic vibe, but you can't see the actual fight scene. It's not a movie with a bunch of embarrassing moments that stick out. It just kind of exists out there as this mediocre, forgettable thing. It's not a movie that's so bad it's good that you could watch with a bunch of friends and have fun with it. It's just so bad it's boring. Number 4 is Tank Girl. If Elektra was a bland movie with no distinct flavor, Tank Girl is a movie that is exclusively big, bold and spicy flavors. The film is sort of like a satirical take on Mad Max, except hopped up on cocaine and Red Bull. Our lead character is this wisecracking drifter whose energy level is always cranked up to 11. It's tough to describe exactly what this movie is. It's a film you have to experience. Like it drifts into animated sequences from time to time when the movie gets really weird, but then again, when it's live action, you have an army of kangaroo super soldiers who are always hitting on the main human females in the film, and many of the villains in the film are actual pedophiles. Most people will find this film absolutely baffling or off-putting, but not surprisingly, it does have a large cult following out there in the world. Much like spicy food, you kind of love it or you hate it. There's not a lot of room for meh with this one. For me, I was kind of interested by just how weird and insane the movie was, but a lot of the comedic timing of it felt a little bit off. I felt the jokes were probably written better than they were delivered. Still, it's a movie that has a really cool 90s soundtrack. But real quick, before I give you my top 3, tell me down in the comments section, what are your picks for the best and the worst female-led comic book movies of all time? Also, after this video, check out this playlist up above with some of my other rankings where I talked about my top 10 favorite comic book movies of all time and the 10 worst comic book movies of all time. If you enjoyed this video, there's something in there that you will love. Bringing us into the top 3 is Captain Marvel, the first solo female-led film in the MCU. Unfortunately, it's kind of mid-tier MCU. So it's still fun. It's still very watchable. There's some nice little nuggets inside of it, but not one of the best MCU films. And probably the big problem here is that Brie Larson's Captain Marvel is outshined by Nick Fury as well as Ben Mendelsohn's Talos. It's not that her performance is devoid of any charm, but her character is written as someone with amnesia who has been living with a military group of people for the last 5 or 6 years who have trained her to repress her emotions. So the character feels like she's at arm's length the entire time. Some people have kind of complained that she's overpowered. I'm not really so sure about that because by the end of the movie, I still wasn't really sure how powerful she was. With that said, I really enjoyed most of the 90s setting as well as seeing Nick Fury before he became so jaded and cynical. Normally, we see Nick Fury just as the agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., but in this movie, we actually get to see Nick Fury, the person. Likewise, the middle act of the film reminded me of both the X-Files and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I say both of those as good things. Overall, this is a fun time with some nice elements. I just wish that they let us get to know the lead character more. Our runner-up is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man might be our point of view character for the film, but when it comes to the action sequences, he's put on the back burner, and the Wasp gets all the moments that really sting. Whether you're talking about her intro fight sequence or the car chase, she gets all of the best fight moments. I've seen a lot of people lately that are highly critical of this film, and I don't fully understand why. Now, certainly it's a smaller scale film and the villains aren't nearly as villainous as some of the characters in other films, and so that's a fair criticism. At the same time, our central story isn't about stopping a villain, it's about rescuing a person. You have our heroes trying to track down the lab while a couple other groups are trying to track down the lab, and the FBI trying to track down our heroes. It's a race to get to something. It's a MacGuffin story. It's not about stopping a villain. So the fact that the villains aren't particularly compelling doesn't bother me that much because I'm invested in the chase. It's also really funny whether you're talking about Paul Rudd doing his shtick or Michael Pena doing more scene-stealing storytelling. Almost everyone in this movie is really funny except for the Wasp. She's normally the straight-faced person in each scene. Overall, this is a movie that might have the least ambition of any film inside of the MCU. If Infinity War is trying to just knock it out of the fence and get a home run, Ant-Man and the Wasp is just trying to get a double, and I think it succeeds at what it's trying to do. But coming in at number 1 is Wonder Woman. When they first announced that they were making a superhero movie out of an Amazonian goddess who flies around in an invisible jet, swings a magic lasso, and dresses in an American flag swimsuit, I just could not imagine how they could pull this off without it being campy. I was one of the idiots on the internet screaming, "This can never work!" Which is why I talk about movies, I don't make movies. But Patty Jenkins cracked the code. She made a movie with great action, characters you like, ideas to explore, and actually a really nice sense of humor. So the experience of watching the movie hits a whole bunch of different high notes and on different levels. The first 30 minutes very efficiently introduce us to this world and our set of characters. We understand what makes them tick and why they're doing what they're doing, and so we want to go along on Wonder Woman's journey throughout the film. Gal Gadot has this irresistible mix of charm, confidence, and innocence that make her a compelling lead. But what takes her to that next level is that they make her the strongest and bravest character in the movie without sacrificing any of her femininity. And one of the real surprises here was just how much chemistry Gal Gadot and Chris Pine have on screen. You buy them romantically, but they also have a bunch of great funny moments as well. Because of this, when you get to his kind of final sacrifice in the film, it hits hard. The third act can be a little bit clunky and talky at a point in time in the movie where it should be exciting, but overall, this is still a very exciting film with a great sense of humor and characters that you actually really like and care about, so it comes in at number 1. Be sure to check out that playlist right over there with some of my other best and worst comic book movie rankings. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.